With how many new Roblox horror games have been dropping lately, it's honestly pretty easy to forget the ones that used to be all over the front page, with a bunch of the old ones starting to become quite forgotten, I'd say. So in today's video, I want to go over 4 of what I consider to be the most forgotten Roblox horror games. To controversy among the dev team, to 2 failed sequels, there is a lot to uncover. If you guys have any Roblox games you consider to be forgotten, let me know down in the comments. But without wasting any more time, let's start off with the first game. Paraphobia. I'm not gonna lie, for the longest time this game has been out, I've had no idea how to pronounce the name of this game. Paraphobia was at one point the most popular and pretty much the only backrooms game on Roblox, originally developed by Monochrome Studios. However, if you search up Paraphobia today, you'll see that it's listed under a different name that goes by Polaroid Studios. So that just leads to the question, what exactly happened to Monochrome Studios? We'll get back to that later. Now, if you were online at all during 2022, you'll probably remember how insanely popular the Backrooms was. And the big part of that was mostly due to Kane Pixel's short film called The Backrooms Found Footage. Not long after, developers on platforms like Steam started pumping out their own Backrooms inspired games, and it wouldn't take long for Roblox to do the same. Except all the ones on Roblox kinda sucked, except for one, Paraphobia. It was one of the only actual high quality Backrooms games on the platform at the time, and I'm pretty sure the first one that took the concept seriously. And because of that, it didn't take long for the game to gain success. But that just leaves the question, how did it go from being one of the most popular horror games on the platform to now only averaging around 800 to 1,000 active players? Well, after researching, there are really 2 main reasons. One, the Backrooms hype was slowly dying. And since Paraphobia gained most of its popularity due to the hype, it was only a matter of time until the game slowly started to die out. And I think the main reason, the controversy. Man, what is it with Roblox stuff and controversy, bro? During development, a serious issue came up involving the lead developer, ZoneQYL. It turned out he was doing some shady things behind the scenes. For example, allegedly being racist in his Discord server, and a bunch of fucking other things. And apparently had been bribing other team members to stay quiet about it. Turns out, ZoneQYL was actually an alt account for a well-known individual with a sketchy past, who was known for doing this kind of stuff. Now, I don't know exactly who this person was, but since this violates Roblox's terms of service, Roblox didn't waste any time, and they terminated his account on the spot. In the middle of all this chaos, CXRPSS, a former co-owner under Monochrome Studios, stepped up and formed a new dev group called Polaroid Studios. She republished Paraphobia under this new name, basically giving the game a clean slate. However, doing this caused everyone's progress to reset back to level 1. A lot of players did not want to replay the entire game just to get back to where they were. Shit, I don't blame them. Like, do you see how long this fucking game is? This reset obviously made the player count drop drastically. So in an effort to bring the game back to life, Polaroid Studios announced Chapter 2 of Paraphobia. And for the split second, it actually worked. A bunch of creators jumped back in just to see what Paraphobia Chapter 2 was all about. But that hype didn't really last that long. Once the excitement wore off, so did the player base. And with new Roblox horror games coming out, Paraphobia just couldn't manage to keep up. And due to personal reasons, Chapter 2 ended up being split into 2 parts. As of writing this, it's been over a year since Chapter 2 first released, and I'm pretty sure the second part still isn't out. I checked to see what Polaroid Studios is up to nowadays, just to see if they're still working on Paraphobia, and apparently they still are, on a new update called The Sublevels. And they even dropped the teaser trailer for it, like 9 months ago. I have no idea if that update ever came out. If it did, I've literally seen 0 people talk about it, so I'm guessing it's still in development. But until then, for now, I'll just say Paraphobia has become forgotten. Bear. This was by far the most highly requested game to be featured in the series. The only reason I never included it before is because honestly, I've never played it. So doing research for this one was pretty tough. Bear is an asymmetrical horror game and I would say one of the first to popularize the genre, with a ton of YouTubers covering this shit, and was developed by Cheetah Man. Now I don't know if you noticed this, but in the big year 2025, asymmetrical horror games are everywhere. Since I never played Bear in my life before, I decided to try it for myself to see what exactly made Bear so special. And honestly, it's alright. Now you gotta remember, this game came out back in 2019. That's like 6 years ago, bro. God, I'm so fucking old. Also, can I be honest? For the longest time, I always thought Bear was a 3D monster, and I did not expect him to be a 2D monster. I want to talk about the gameplay of Bear real quick, as I think it's one of the main reasons this game blew up in the first place. Because out of every asymmetrical horror game I've played on Roblox so far, Bear definitely has the most simple and dumbed down mechanics out of all of them. And that's not a bad thing. It's super easy to understand, and that probably made it way more accessible to other types of players. Like for example, the bad ones. Alright, so the gameplay. Bear is pretty overpowered. Like I said, the mechanics are super dumbed down. There's not even a punch button like in most other games, as the only way to attack is by literally just standing next to the survivor. Meanwhile, the stamina for survivors is like fucking AIDS to play with, bro. You waste stamina faster than you regain it, while Bear can just walk forever with no stamina limit. So to combat this, they ended up making the maps super fucking big, which kinda balances it all out. Except now in some situations, Bear's the one actually at a disadvantage. Since Bear doesn't have any ability to see where players are, you gotta manually check every single building just to find one person. This obviously isn't a full review or anything, because if it was, I would have put way more time into this game. So what exactly happened? How did it go from being one of the most talked about Roblox horror games, to even having official merch, which is rare for some Roblox games, to now barely pulling in 500 players? Well, for some weird reason, the devs behind Bear decided that instead of updating the already successful original game, they were instead gonna make a sequel. Instead of calling the sequel Bear 2, they instead called it Bear Star, which I'm not gonna lie, might be one of the worst names you could have possibly given it. Like, it's not even that distinct when you look at it side by side with the original. The only difference is that one just says Alpha, while the new one just has a little asterisk slapped onto it. Now, what exactly makes Bear Star, I'm not calling it fucking Bear Star, bro, I'm calling it Bear 2, so different from the original? Well, actually, a ton of stuff. Bear 2 is in fact a major improvement over Bear Alpha, as one of my previous complaints of Bear not having any abilities was fixed. Now, there's a variety of abilities you can choose from, tons of new game modes, and even a brand new lobby with tons of secrets, which I accidentally found while doing this. What the fuck? What the fuck? Wait, whoa, what did I find? What the hell? Oh, hell no, bro. What the fuck is going on? Bro, how am I finding new shit every single time I play this game, bro? Oh my god, what the fuck was that? Oh shit. That scared the fuck out of me. I don't want to play this game anymore. There's also a ton of skins, with for some reason this being the most popular one out of all of them.
What's the problem? Do you like?
Not like me.
Like something.
No, I just think you're really fucking ugly. I'm pretty sure this skin was in the first game, but who cares? And this dude named Bob, who I originally thought was a new monster, but I guess not. And even craziers that were only 5,000 subscribers away from 40,000. So if you've been enjoying the video so far, consider subscribing. Alright, back to the video. And that's probably not even everything this game has to offer, since I only played like 3 hours of it. Like, I got 4 other games to cover, man. Now looking at this, you'd think Bear 2 would have way more players than Bear Alpha. But if you compare the player count side by side, it's not even close. Bear 2 struggles to even hit 100 active players, while Bear Alpha still pulls in over 500 daily. The highest Bear 2 ever managed to get was about 4,326 players at one point, yet it never reached the same level of success that Bear Alpha did. And because of that, the developers ended up discontinuing Bear 2 entirely, and decided to shift all their focus back into Bear Alpha instead. So why did Bear 2 end up failing? My theory, a lot of people who spent hours grinding for skins in Bear Alpha probably realized that their progress wasn't going to carry over, so they would just rather stick with the original instead of just starting all over again in Bear 2. Meaning that the devs basically killed their own game by making a sequel. If we look at how Bear is doing today, it's clear it's no longer as popular as it once was. Maybe one day it could make a comeback, as I'm now starting to see multiple TikToks talking about how good Bear was and shit. But with how consistent Bear fans are about not playing their own game, I honestly kinda doubt it. If we look at what Cheetah Man's up to today, he's apparently working on a new Bear game called Bear Tower Defense. Kinda wild, but hey, I wish him nothing but the best with the release, and who knows, maybe that'll be the thing that brings Bear back. Identity Fraud. Identity Fraud was a horror game developed by Team Motherboard and was created back in 2016. And I remember this being one of the hardest and most confusing horror games I've ever played. Like, I remember one of the puzzles literally requiring you to solve Morse fucking code. There was like a maze, this guy, and the ending for some reason was a boss battle. But nowadays there's a ton of tutorials and answer guides that a basic playthrough only takes about 15 minutes, if you know what you're doing. God knows how long you'd be stuck without a guide. Anyways, for some reason this game ended up becoming a major success, pulling in over 331 million visits, with many content creators covering the game. Seeing the attention it was getting, Team Motherboard decided to continue with a sequel, Identity Fraud 2. Now what makes this interesting is that in all my time playing Identity Fraud, I've never heard of Identity Fraud 2 in my life. Like, this is literally the first time I'm learning it even existed. What made it even weirder is that none of the other content creators who played the original ever ended up covering the sequel. If you check out the game today, Identity Fraud 2 has 0 active players, with the description straight up reading, discontinued. So out of pure curiosity, I decided to check out Identity Fraud 2 myself, just to see why it doesn't have a single active player. But since I'm covering like 4 other games, I didn't really have that much time to dive into it. But from what I saw, nothing seems super out of the ordinary. The complicated mazes and puzzles are back. In the earlier chapters, it's mostly identical gameplay wise to the first game, but around halfway through, the game takes a complete 180, and when you finally make it to the end, the game hits you with "to be continued," which means there were clearly plans for future updates. So that just leaves us with the question, What happened to Identity Fraud 2? After doing some digging into both Identity Fraud and Identity Fraud 2, I was able to find something. Now, this is all speculation since I don't have any concrete proof that this statement is 100% true. But apparently Identity Fraud 2 was discontinued mainly due to a significant lack of support and funding during development of Chapter 3. Now again, take this information with a grain of salt. I decided to check out Team Motherboard's group to see what else they worked on after Identity Fraud's success, and it doesn't look like much. There was even an Identity Fraud graphic novel they made for April Fools, which doesn't work anymore, I think. If that really is the case, then I'm sad we'll never get to see a fully completed version of Identity Fraud 2. The second most asked game to be featured in the series is by far Piggy. With the upcoming release of Piggy Intercity, I don't think Piggy's going to become forgotten for a while. No, instead we'll be talking about its most forgotten spin-off, Piggy Hunt. Now, if you've never heard of Piggy Hunt before, that's probably because it's not actually a Roblox game. Instead, Piggy Hunt was actually a game on Steam that costed money. That's fucking right, you needed to pay money if you wanted to play Piggy. I don't know how, but somehow a Roblox game made its way onto Steam. And as far as I know, this might have been the first Roblox-based game to actually do that. Now, what exactly was the reason for this game even existing? Well, I'm not really sure, but I think the real reason this game was even made was because the developers wanted to challenge themselves and create something truly unique, and wanted to push the boundaries of what Roblox horror could look like. That could be the only explanation as to why this abomination of a game even exists. The game first dropped as a public playtest on September 14, 2021, and then went to early access a month later, priced at $5 USD. And while $5 isn't much, it's still kind of wild seeing a Roblox game asking for any money on Steam. But just 3 weeks later, on November 5th, 2021, the game went free to play. So what happened to Piggy Hunt? And how did it end up failing? Well, not trying to hate or anything, but this game was pretty much doomed from the start. Despite the popularity of the original Piggy, the game struggled to retain players, probably due to the fact that the Roblox version was way better than whatever the hell this was. Even weeks after release, it became difficult to find full lobbies due to the lower player counts, pay-to-win elements, some players complained that cosmetics and items gave unfair advantages, and of course, lack of content updates. After its initial launch, there were very few major updates or expansions, and development quickly slowed down. Then in October 2023, the game's servers were silently shut down. The main reason for the shutdown was never formally announced, but according to some people in the community, the closure was due to an expired license agreement between Fat Mojo and Minitoon. Following its discontinuation, the Steam page was removed, making the game lost forever. Some fans apparently attempted to preserve the files of the game, or try to revive it somehow, but without any server support, the game remained unplayable forever. There was even a planned mobile version that was quietly scrapped. After the shutdown, development focus seemingly shifted back into other projects, the main one being Piggy Intercity. What's funny about all of this is that I remember downloading Piggy Hunt when it first released to the public, but never bothered to actually play it. And now I have a form of lost media forever in my Steam library. Well, that's everything. It's been like 3 months since I last made a Forgotten Games video, so I really hope you enjoyed, cause who knows how long the next one's gonna take. Before I end the video, I want to give a quick thank you to my channel members, Erika, who's been with the channel since I think 2K subscribers, god damn, and Justin Jaden. Now if you have any games to be featured in the next part, if I ever decide to do another one, let me know down in the comments. But until then, I'll see you guys next time whenever I upload, which will probably not be soon. Alright.
Bye!
Persona 5 Strikers.